The anime begins by showing us events that took place 3 years ago, with a naval fleet surrounding an island. Some of the leaders mention that it's futile to try to help, as conventional weapons cannot harm those creatures. Therefore, they can only rely on the hunters. The scene shifts to the battlefield on the island, where a large group of hunters is facing problems dealing with ant-like monsters. Despite working together, it is revealed that their level is not sufficient to defeat these monsters, and they end up being overwhelmed and attacked before reaching death. A particular hunter, named Yungu, uses healing magic to instantly heal the wounded. At that moment, a group of monsters tries to attack the healer, but his companion, Insect, warns him in time. Insect casts a lightning spell at the enemies and orders his companion Jonjo to attack. Jonjo, being a brute force warrior, sweeps the area using only his immense physical power. The saved hunters recognize these three as S-rank hunters, and the leader and the warrior join forces to face a massive beast. They execute a combined attack of great power thanks to their abilities. After paralyzing the beast with a lightning strike, the warrior tears off its limbs and throws one of them towards the monster, piercing it completely. However, shortly after, they realize that dozens of these giant beasts are approaching, forcing them to unleash their enhanced abilities. Meanwhile, in another part of the island, another group of hunters led by a high-ranking hunter named Choi faces another horde of monsters. It is revealed that portals connecting our world with other dimensions appeared several decades ago, and through these portals, grotesque monsters inhabit. Conventional weapons do not affect them, and only hunters with special powers can fight them. According to the amount of magical power they possess, they are classified into ranks S, B, C, D, and E. However, once they awaken, no matter how hard they try, their attributes will never improve. Now, let's fast forward 3 years to the present. Here, they show us a portal at the entrance of a building where hunters are gathered, discussing the money they can earn in raids. These individuals greet the protagonist named Sun and Jinwoo, and as they pass by, one of them asks who he is and if he's someone strong since everyone greets him. The one beside him responds that it's quite the opposite, as this guy joined before he retired. They call him the weakest weapon of humanity because he ended up hospitalized after coming out of a ranky portal, making him the weakest hunter. If Jinwoo joins, the raid is considered low level, but they suggest it's better to leave it that way, as they don't want him to overhear. Although Jinjel tells him in his head that he heard everything, he also acknowledges that it's the truth and can't blame them. At that moment, another hunter named Yua approaches him, expressing concern at seeing him injured again. Alone, Jinwoo explains that he was the only one injured in an E-rank dungeon, the others were of higher ranks, so they didn't bring a healer. Yua disagrees, but Jinwoo clarifies that it's okay, as it's all because he's too weak. It's then that they realize they are about to enter soon, joining the other hunters. The raid leader introduces himself as Sun Chol, and upon seeing him as the leader, the others feel more at ease, as he is the highest ranked hunter among them. After everyone enters, our protagonist takes out his weapon, which turns out to be a knife that only accepts a bit of magic, being the only thing he can afford with his earnings. Despite that, he is determined to achieve something more today, finally entering through the portal. In a scene transition, we see President Go of the Hunters Association, who is asked about his meeting with the government. He responds that it's always the same, there can't be dungeon breaches, but they want stable provisions of the materials found in them. Their demands are not unfounded, hunters make a living selling dungeon resources, as defeated monsters drop crystals and magic stones that yield money. Returning to Jinwoo, we see that he is somewhat tired after obtaining a crystal. Finally having won, he is attacked by a goblin by surprise while being distracted. Covering himself with his knife, it cracks. After dodging several attacks from the monster, he attempts to stab it in the stomach, but as expected, the knife breaks before harming it. There, he is stabbed by the goblin's weapon, saved by other hunters. However, the wound is so significant that he begins to bleed. This hunter asks Yua to take care of our protagonist, withdrawing immediately to join the others. She approaches to use her healing directly on Jinwoo's wound, gradually curing him. At that moment, we go back to President Go, who explains that magic stones from high-ranking monsters can also become more powerful weapons or equipment. Mana ore extracted from dungeons serves the same purpose, but its effects are lesser. However, the government sees it as a source of energy safer than nuclear, more efficient than hydro, wind, or geothermal, and even less polluting than thermoelectric. It becomes the ideal sustainable energy, and that's why they promote energy generation through mana ore and magic stones, rare resources obtained only by hunters. The role of hunters becomes crucial. Returning to the previous raid, the hunters manage to defeat the boss E, but while he continues to heal Zunk, he warns him about the danger of persisting as a hunter out of pride. The hunters discuss the loot obtained but realize there are few veins of mana ore in the area, not constituting a sufficient reward. Jinwoo observes that everything has ended, and he only obtained a rank E magic stone, which doesn't seem worthwhile given the proximity to death. A miner shows the others a long cave they have found, possibly a double dungeon. Although they defeated the boss, the leader explains that in unexpected cases, they usually seek instructions from the association. Some hunters disagree, arguing that others will take the best if they do that. In the case of a rank D dungeon, they try to convince Sun, who decides that they must make a decision by majority vote. After the vote, there are 6 in favor and 6 against, with Jinwoo's vote remaining. Considering the danger of ranked D dungeons but also the urgent needs of his family, Jinwoo votes in favor of entering. Elsewhere, inside the Hunters Association, an employee communicates with Choi, a rank of hunters, who orders to stop anyone who appears skilled, regardless of gender or age. Although he doubts that anyone surpasses his chahin in the city streets, some individuals on motorcycles steal a woman's purse. However, a girl identified as Chahin, an S-rank hunter, intervenes with astonishing speed to retrieve the purse and knock down the thieves. Faced with the crowd that recognizes her, she decides to flee, agilely jumping across nearby buildings. Back with the previous hunters, they complain that they have been walking through the tunnel for 40 minutes. They mention that the portal will close an hour after defeating the boss, and they still have 20 minutes left. At that moment, Jinwoo apologizes to Yua since they are looking for another boss, and he voted in favor of entering. She, evidently angry, points out that if they had stabbed him a little higher, he would be with St. Peter, reminding him that she miraculously healed his arm and leg. Jinwoo reflects on the truth that Yua, being a B-rank healer, always saves him. Noticing his regret, Yua tells him that now he'll have to invite her to eat something. At that moment, they announce that they have reached the final boss's room. However, they find it strange that it has a door, which raises suspicions, but they decide to enter anyway. Suddenly, a speech directed at the newly awakened hunters in the association is shown. Go Gunji, president of the Hunters Association, explains that some will choose to be hunters, while others will reject that path. He advises that despite their strength to survive, they must also have courage. Jinwoo's raid progresses, and they come across statues of various sizes. One particularly large statue catches Jinwoo's attention. After investigating, they inform Sonk that there is an ancient inscription on the floor and begin to translate it. Meanwhile, Yua, frightened, informs Jinwoo that one of the giant statues moved its eyes. Suddenly, the door through which they entered closes abruptly, causing panic among the hunters. One of the statues stands up and swiftly cuts one of the hunters in half with its enormous weapon. Jinwoo observes that the victim was of rank D and barely lasted a second, which is abnormal for a rank D dungeon. As he focuses his gaze on the statue Yua warned him about, its eyes fixate on him. At that moment, Jinwoo reflects on the times he has been close to death in previous raids. Despite being low-rank dungeons, he always risks his life while other hunters equip themselves with money obtained from magic stones. Jinwoo only obtains a cheap knife, and if it breaks, he has to use his hands. He endures mockery and risks his life for miserable rewards, seeking how to survive by carefully observing his surroundings. In the present, Jinwoo warns everyone to get down just as the statue shoots a fire beam that disintegrates whatever it touches and destroys the floor. Jinwoo protects Yogi by lying down with her. The survivors observe the damage caused by the attack without understanding what is happening. Jinwoo wonders how they ended up like this, locked in and on the verge of death, as he fixes his gaze on the large statue at the end of the room, feeling a sudden terror at realizing that he will truly die in that place. And thus ends this first episode of this eagerly awaited anime. Subscribe to see more anime summaries, and leave in the comments which other anime you would like me to bring. This is Prime Animes, and we'll see you next time.